In this video, you'll learn about basic phonics. Let's review what we've learned about reading comprehension. In the simple view of reading, we learned that reading comprehension is the product of word recognition and language comprehension. Phonics is a teaching method that focuses on word recognition through decoding. So in this presentation, we are focusing on the word recognition factor. Here we see the simple view of reading in more detail. We see the many strands that make up language comprehension and word recognition, and that ultimately lead to skilled reading. In this video, we will look at decoding and sight word recognition through orthographic mapping. Here we see the four-part processing model. We already know that the model is made up of four processors and that the phonological processor deals with sound. In this video, we will learn more about the orthographic processor and that it deals with written symbols or letters that we can see. When we connect the phonological processor and the orthographic processor, we have phonics. Through phonics, children learn to connect the written symbol that they see in print to phonemes. They can then connect the string of phonemes to a meaningful word and consult with the context processor when needed to determine a word's meaning. Here are some terms that you need to be familiar with. A phoneme is the smallest unit of sound. A grapheme is the symbol that represents a phoneme. The alphabetic principle is the understanding that the squiggles on the page represent a sound and that the squiggles have names. Phonics is decoding words using the sound value of letters or groups of letters. Decoding is the ability to translate a word from print to speech. Encoding is the ability to translate a word from speech to print. Let's take a look at Aries phases of word recognition development. Highlighted in yellow, you can see the skills that are related to decoding. We see that in the pre-alphabetic phase, children are recognizing visual cues like the McDonald's sign, but this isn't real reading yet. In the partial alphabetic phase, children recognize letter names and some of their sounds. In the full alphabetic phase, children are beginning to automatically recognize some words and are able to connect some phonemes to graphemes. Finally, in the consolidated alphabetic phase, children are building on their sight word recognition and are able to map phonemes to graphemes for words with the same rhyme, words with multiple syllables, and words with morphemes. After looking at the stages of word recognition development, you may be wondering how teachers will know where their students lie in this progression. Assessment is the answer. Teachers use assessment data to gain information about what each student knows about reading. We can use this information to compare it to what children should know at an age and help make the instructional decisions. Assessment data also helps teachers group students for small group instruction. For example, if a group of students is still struggling with decoding words with short O, the teacher can group them together for instruction. Small groups should be homogeneous, but flexible. So when students have mastered a skill, they no longer need to be in the short O group. So what assessments should teachers use? There are many options available. Some common ones include the Dibbles Nonsense Word Fluency Assessment and the Core Phonics Survey. Dibbles is an assessment that is used widely in school districts. Now that we have talked about the why of phonics, the developmental phases for word reading, and how to assess phonics skills, we will talk more about the what of phonics. If your school district has adopted a good core reading program, it will have a scope and sequence that tells you what to teach and when. If you do not have access to a phonics program, the Letters Scope and Sequence for Word Study, Reading, and Spelling is a great resource for planning your year of phonics instruction. Here we see Carol Tolman's hourglass figure that shows the connection between phonological awareness and orthography, which is the writing and spelling system of language. At the top, we see the increasingly complex progression of phonological awareness skills. Then we see the one-to-one correspondence, which is the connection of the sounds to letters. At the bottom, we see the increasingly larger components of English orthography. We move from the knowledge of individual graphemes to knowledge of etymology or word origin. Here's a chart of the English consonant phonemes. You can see the phonemes are grouped by how the phoneme is produced and the mouth position. Notice that the only difference is that some phonemes are voiced, some are unvoiced. For example, say p. Now say b. Notice the way that you say the sound is the same, except one phoneme uses the voice and the other does not. Here we see the English phonemes. These phonemes are grouped by the position of the mouth and the location of the tongue. The breve symbol stands for the short sound, and the macron stands for the long sound. The diphthongs are at the bottom left, and the R-controlled sounds are on the bottom right. The schwa is in the center at the top. This sound may have different sounds, including I and but is found in an unstressed syllable. Say the vowel sounds with me, starting at the top with E. E, I, A, eh, I, ah, aw, o, oo, you. Did you notice how your mouth position changed from a smile to open and rounded? The two phoneme charts represented here are often used in classrooms as sound walls. Sound spelling cards can be added along with some keywords to help students with their reading and spelling of these sounds. The spellings should be added as they are taught. Here are some terms for the various graphemes that represent sounds. We have 44 phonemes in English, but only 26 letters, so we use combinations of letters to represent some sounds. We have the single letter. A single letter consonant represents a single consonant phoneme. For example, B represents B. D represents D. We have a doublet, which is a double letter that represents one phoneme. For example, you may double the F, the L, the S, or the Z. In the word little, we double the T. We have the digraph, which is a two-letter combination that stands for a single phoneme, in which neither letter represents its usual sound. So, for example, TH represents the sound F. A trigraph is a three-letter combination that represents one phoneme. So, for example, TCH stands for the sound ch, or DGE stands for the sound j. We also have consonants and blends, 2 or 3 graphemes, when each one represents a phoneme. A blend is not one sound, but 2 or 3 adjacent consonants before or after a vowel in a syllable. So, for example, SCR is the blend skr. We hear each sound from these graphemes, but together they make a consonant blend. We also may see a digraph blended. So we have thir with the TH representing one phoneme, and it's blended with the phoneme for R. We have the CL blend. We can also see consonant blends at the ends of words. So for example, in milk, we have the ulk blend, LK, at the end of the word. We have silent letter combinations, which a letter combination where one or more letters is silent, but another letter does represent the phoneme. Most of these are Greek or Anglo-Saxon derivation. So for example, in the word knock, we have KN representing the sound N, and the K is silent. Or in the word gnat, the G is silent, but together the G and the N stand for the N sound. Same thing with him. The M and the end represent together the sound mm. We have the odd letter X. The letter X is the only letter that stands for two phonemes, k and s, and occasionally g and z, as in box, exit, exact, exist. The combination QU. These two letters are always together in English, and they stand for two sounds, k and w. They do not stand for one sound. So, for example, in the word quickly, Q and U stand for the sounds k, w. Here is the list of vowel graphemes. We have single letters, where the single vowel letter stands for a vowel sound. So in our short vowels, we have cap, hit, and clad, where we have the a, I, and a represented by a and I. We also have this in long vowels with me, or no, or music. A vowel team is a combination of 2, 3, or 4 letters that stand for a vowel. In short vowels, we have E and A together say eh in the word head, or OO says in hook. We have long vowel sounds with vowel teams. OA stands for the long O sound in boat, or IG and H together stand for the long I sound in sigh. We also have diphthongs, and these are a little different because with a diphthong, our mouth changes position as we form the sound. So if we were to take pictures of how we form this sound, we would have two pictures. So we have the oi sound, and it's represented by OI in toil. Sometimes this is also represented by OY. We have about, which is the OU is saying the ow sound. In our vowel R combinations, that's a common pattern followed by R stands for a unique vowel sound. So we have car, sport, her, burn, and bird. So the AR says the R sound in car. So we do not hear the sound of A because it's controlled by the R. We can think of this as a bossy R. Or in sport, we don't hear the sound of O. We just hear or because the O sound is controlled by the R. We hear this in the her word with the ER. We do not hear the sound of E because it's controlled by the R. We have this with burn and with bird also. Vowel consonant E. A common pattern for spelling a long vowel sound. So we have the vowel and then a consonant letter and then the E. We might sometimes call this magic E or sneaky E at the end. So this makes the long vowel sound. So together in the word gate, A and E make the sound A. Or in the word meet, we might have the E and the other E, they make the sound E. Orthographic mapping is the process readers use to store words for instant retrieval. These words are stored in the brain's visual form area, or the letter box. Once words are stored here, they cannot be removed. Orthographic mapping becomes possible when children have reached advanced phonemic awareness and can map phonemes to graphemes. One example of an activity to facilitate this mapping in the brain is for students to map phonemes to graphemes on a grid. The teacher says the word aloud, and then the teacher and the student say the phonemes of the word. Students then write the graphemes in the box. Only one phoneme can be in each box. For example, for the word ship, S and H go in the same box because they represent one phoneme. Research strongly supports that phonics be taught explicitly. The steps for an explicit phonics lesson include: state the goal and purpose of the lesson, practice phonological awareness, review the previous lesson, introduce the new concept, provide guided practice, practice dictation, and read the text. The text here is often decodable text, which is a text whose words are controlled to only include the spelling patterns that children have learned this far. So depending on the reading program that you're using, the decodable text may have different combinations of letters or graphemes that have been introduced. So not all decodables will fit with different programs. Other activities may be incorporated throughout the school day or for homework to provide additional practice with the new concept.